The following is an Operation Podcast production.
Be aware of the questions you're asking. We're not trained in asking quality questions. Well, then how do you have quality conversations? That's something we don't learn. That's something that you're modeled in your family, in your friend group, but you don't learn how to do that. Any question that starts with are, is, do, would, should, or have, I don't care what words come after those 6 words that start, the answer is a binary one. We've learned, to have quality conversations, there's 2 things: create the space and well-constructed questions.
Am I where I want to be? Am I moving forward in life? What questions am I asking of myself in my environment? And are they getting me what I want?
Right. The answer is the question, because the question, which is a starting point, which where all the power lies, because the question shapes the answer, that's where all your emphasis should be on. And then have faith that the beautiful answer will appear if you're asking a beautiful question. I want you to come up with 30 questions. And you're going to fill in time frame, how it makes you feel, how it makes someone else feel. And here's the great thing about questions is you can always ask another one.
Yeah. How can I develop an anchor of trust so that I can go explore deeper?
That's a great question. Hey, I'm Topaz Adizes, founder of The Skin Deep. Super stoked to be here with you all here on Everforward Radio.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but a big part of your work is still around questions.
Oh, yeah.
And asking what a lot of people might say are difficult questions, uncomfortable questions.
I call them, to me, it's just well-constructed questions. And I think one thing I've seen this last year, talking about it, is that we're not trained in asking quality questions. We don't learn how to do that. And then we're also not trained in how to have quality conversations. And it comes, the equation is, Esther Perel, who's in this field, who's amazing and has her books out, and is a clinical therapist and incredible author. She says, the quality of your life is measured by the quality of your relationships. Okay, cool. Well, then how do you have quality relationships? One way is quality conversations. To engage and explore your relationship and see the nuance and see what you're experiencing and to see and be seen. Okay, you have those quality conversations, you have quality relationships. Okay, well, then how do you have quality conversations? That's something we don't learn. That's something that you're modeled in your family, in your friend group, but you don't learn how to do that. My team and I have been doing this for the last 11 years, witnessing over 1,250 conversations. We've learned, to have quality conversations, it's 2 things: create the space and well-constructed questions. And we could double click on that, but that's what I've learned is the value, this thing that the world that I've been living in and holding space for, which I kind of take for granted because it's obvious and it is, it's not for everyone.
Yeah.
And then, we've been in this privileged position to witness so many conversations and how to construct it, how to hold a space for it, how to, what makes a quality question? Now we've been offering it. And that's the great feedback that I've been getting in this last year is the value offering of that is, how do we have quality conversations? How do we construct good questions?
Yeah.
That's something we're never taught.
Well, we're kind of teaching it actually in the other studio.
Boom.
I have your cards. I have the cards over there. I don't know how many people are using it, but we have some little prompt cards. They're great little interview questions or for adding a little variety over in the other studio. So
cool.
We're spreading the good word. I love what you're up to, man. So the reason I was asking about this concept of difficult questions is that I think where people are stuck in not asking questions or have fear around asking questions has less to do with the question, and it's the fear of the answer. The fear of, do I know the right answer? Am I going to be afraid of the answer that I get from the other person when I ask this question, especially in this intimate relationship? So, but that's really where the growth comes from, right? Is from the question, not the answer, right? So if we want to grow, especially in your world of relationships, how can we get over that fear of the answer,
right,
of having one or not, and get to the growth aspect of the question?
Well, first, let's just acknowledge that when you hear someone say, vulnerability, I'm being vulnerable, or the courage of being vulnerable, we often equate that to the person who's sharing. And what you're saying is sometimes you don't want to ask questions because you don't want to have the fear of the answer. And I think we should also equate the vulnerability to the one who's listening. We don't often talk about the vulnerability of what is involved when you're listening because we don't practice listening that much, right? If you look at social media, we're not in a place where we actually practice sitting down and listening, holding the space to take in what someone else is sharing. And that does require some courage because the answer could be very vulnerable for you, right? Confronting. So let's just acknowledge that. When one person is listening, when one person is sharing, it's vulnerable sharing. It's also a gift because they're opening up, but it's also vulnerable to take in because maybe the answer is confronting, right? That's one. 2 is it's not about the answer. It's not about finding the answer. It's not about getting the answer. It's actually sitting in the discomfort of the question. That's the question. Can you, in your relationships, whether it's your intimate, like romantic, or your best friend, or your colleague at work, can we sit in that uncomfortable space of the question and not have the pressure of actually having to answer that at the moment? Because if you look at your life, do answers come like this whenever you ask them? When you want to do something and achieve something, it doesn't just happen like that. When you're asking a profound question of what you want to do with your life, or if you want to marry this person, or where do you want to live, it doesn't just happen like that. You ask it, and then you give it time. Things sprout. I mean, seedlings take time to sprout, become a tree, a plant, whatnot. So the same thing with answers. So are you in a space in your relationship? Are you cultivating the space in your relationship to sit in the discomfort of the questions and know that in time the right answers or the proper answers or the constructive answers will come? Then the flip side is the answer is the question.
What do you mean?
The question shapes the answer. So the answer is the question, because the question, which is a starting point, where all the power lies, because the question shapes the answer, that's where all your emphasis should be on. And then have faith that the beautiful answer will appear if you're asking a beautiful question. So let me go back here. Simple, like, you're gonna have a kid, and a year from now, 2 years, when the kid's talking, you go, hey, you wanna go to sleep? Your kid's gonna yell, no. Okay, that's what's gonna happen. And you're like, but that question, yes or no, do you wanna go to sleep? Okay, you're shaping the possible outcomes by saying, do you wanna sleep? Now, instead, if you ask your son, you say, hey, do you wanna sleep on the couch or on the bed? Now, the answer saying no is not an option. Your questions shape the possibilities. The possibilities are the bed or the couch. The question shaped the answer. When you run a race course, right? When you're on a race car, your race car's driving one out, the race is shaped by the course. The answer is shaped by the question.
Oh man, this is so good.
That's like fundamentally, like, we can end it now, which, like, what I've seen and learned is that, like, everything is shaped by the question. And we in our society are so focused on the answers. We're running around answers, but we're chasing answers that are probably the right answers to the wrong questions. And not only that, but but not only that, but the questions that we're asking ourselves, are they really your questions? Or are they your father, your mother, your society, your religion? Are they whose questions are they? How much are they your questions? And the more unique questions you ask of yourself, the more unique the answers you'll get, the more unique of a life you'll live.
Let's go there. This is actually an area that I wanted to get to. I'm going to jump down a little bit. What you're describing, the word came up for me, is container.
Okay.
Containers, nature, nurture, religion, belief systems, where we grew up, our peers, the school. What containers do you think most people have that they might not be fully aware of, that predisposes them, if you will, to a certain way of thinking, therefore a certain way of asking or not asking questions?
So do you mean like when you say
like you were describing, is this even my question?
Right.
Is this my father's question? Is this my pastor's question?
Right.
Is this my great aunt Sally's question?
Yeah.
So how do we wrap our head around, is this question my own?
Yeah.
And if it's not, where did it come from? And then I guess step 3 is, do I even align with that question?
Yeah, exactly. I think just asking yourself, where's this question coming from? Is this really my question? I mean, this is beautiful that we're talking about, and maybe it sounds too meta, but be aware of the questions you're asking. I mean, in my first 30, 40 years of my life, I was asking the question, am I genius enough? Which was or do they think I'm a genius? Because of a film director or whatnot. And that's a high bar to set, and also it puts the result on someone else's judgment. And God knows you have to rely on someone else's judgment. It's like, and whose question is that? That's my dad's question, which is basically nothing's of value unless it's basically genius. That's like the bar. All right. When I realized that, it's like, wait, first of all, that question is not going to it's not putting me in a productive position. No wonder I'm always disappointed, never happy, never fulfilled, and always basically sad. And then wait, why am I even asking this question? Oh yeah, because I was raised to know that that's the bar. So I'm actually answering the question that my father posed to me. Do I want to answer that? And maybe you do, maybe you don't. But are you conscientious of the questions you're asking yourself? And if you're conscientious of the questions you're asking yourself, you can also change them. You can shape them.
So just to kind of, I want to make this very practical and tactical for the listener, the viewer, as they're kind of following along. So here we are, we're aware of the question.
Sure.
So my ultimate goal of this conversation is to wrap our heads around, am I asking questions? What are the questions, and how do I become more comfortable with them and the answers, or just sitting with the question? But ultimately, every conversation here is to help us move forward in life, to live a life ever forward, I say. And so I think with that snapshot in mind of, am I where I want to be? Am I moving forward in life? And if not, let's go back and say, is it because of the questions? What questions am I asking of myself and my environment? And are they getting me what I want?
Right. So, great, man. I'm sure I'm wondering if your audience is like, wait, this is too much. But like, am I moving forward or not? Let's start there. That's a really tough question to answer because it's a binary answer, yes or no. Any question that starts with are, is, do, would, should, or have, I don't care what words come after those 6 words that start, the answer is a binary one.
Meaning it's going to be a yes or no.
Yes, no, left, right, good, bad.
And you're saying...
And what I'm saying is like...
we should get away from that?
I think it depends on what you're looking at. Sometimes you need a clear answer. But how often is life clear yes or no?
Minimally.
Right? Like, am I moving forward? It's like, well, that one, well, in which realm? Health, maybe. Mental health, maybe not. Relationship, yes. In work, definitely. But then mental health, like, it's too grand. So get specific about the question. Like, and that's where I think we need to pay more attention and constructing the questions, because that opens up opportunities, that creates nuance. So for instance, it's like, if I was going to say, am I moving forward? It would be, in the past 3 months, have I progressed in the field of my mental health? Okay. I can get a very clear answer, yes, no, but it's a time frame and it's like very specific. But if we go, am I moving forward? It's like, well, you'll spend months like, well, it's not, because your mind is racing to serve the question. It is a faithful dog, dude. The mind is going to chase whatever stick you throw. Doesn't question where you throw the stick. And the stick is the question. You throw the question. You throw the stick. So am I moving forward? Your mind is going to race to try to find the answer to that. You're throwing a stick in a very dangerous spot to find, because it's like, well, how do I answer that? Maybe my mental health is challenging, but my physical health is better. But my relationship's good. Work is good. This is that. Whoa. And in what time frame? Like right now, or the last year, the last 6 months? What? So break it down. Makes it more manageable. That's like and I think, and I've been wondering why, like, we're taught critical thinking, but critical thinking is applied to a question. Like, hey, critical think, process this information. Is this good or bad? Is this faulty information? What is happening politically? Or like, what is pulling this lever? What should you, critical thinking, but you're not taught about the question upon which you're asking to begin with and how you shape it.
So then...
does that make sense? Oh, like here's another one.
I'm wrapping my head around it.
Okay, so let's do another one. How many times do you have entrepreneurs who are like, I want to build $1 billion company, or I want to build a company to exit? They're like, they know before they even know what they're going to sell or how they're going to find their business model or product market fit. Like, I'm building this to exit. Why? I'm going to build this to exit is an answer to a question, which is, I'm going to build a company. How am I going to make my money? How am I going to be a genius? How am I going to be seen by everyone? Oh, I'm going to build something to exit. How am I going to be the most badass entrepreneur? Well, I'm going to do what everyone else does. I want to build a company to exit for a unicorn, $1 billion. Why are you asking that question? And like, I'm not saying it's a bad question per se. I'm saying, why are you asking that question? Is that because that's what everyone in your field is doing, and on your feed, you see the hustler culture? Like, yeah, I'm going to build and that's what old great entrepreneurs do. And they're just going to build a company exit. Why am I doing that?
So is what you're saying kind of the familiar why? We ask a question and why? And
sure.
Like, I want to build a business. Why? Because I want to exit. Why? Because I want to make a lot of money. Why? Because I want to have a nice life.
Right.
Blah, blah, blah. So is it just that, or is it going,
well, no, it's
how's it different?
It's why. And I call that a feedback, a question loop, where you just say, And there's different kind of question loops you can do, but that's one. It's like, why? Great. Another one is, why? What if I already have it? So you go, why? What if I already have it? What would that give me? And then you go back to why. All right, so why am I going to do that? Because I want to build $1 billion. What if I already have it? Well, I don't have $1 billion. Well, what if you did? Well, then what if you already have it? What would and you do this loop, and it would take you in a different space to just dive deeper into the reasoning of what we're doing. We are programmed for answers. We're not programmed to realize that that's what we do, and therefore we should give more emphasis to the questions we ask. That gives us more conscientious life. And I do think it's a why, but what I'm saying here is that, okay, great. So then the next question is, well, how do I construct a good question? Okay, 3 parts. Time frame, how it makes you feel, how it makes someone else feel.
Go deeper there for us, please. Because that's where I wanted to go next is, what is then the framework? What is the approach to asking, the right question to get us to the next right question?
Yeah. So it's great because usually all my work is in the context of a relationship. And now we're really talking about your individual life. And when you're asking yourself a question about your life, what you're doing, give it a time frame, give it how it makes you feel, how it makes other people feel. Why? Time frame, because nothing's infinite. I mean, if you're just doing like, am I moving forward? It's like, what's the time frame? Because things change all the time. We have to give this thing a time frame, like to make it relational into the aspect of who we are and how we change over time.
Or else we can't really relate to it.
You can't.
Right?
It's infinite. It's like the whole lifetime. It's like where should I live? Well, should I marry this person? Okay, that's a great question, but right, you want a binary answer for that one. But it's like whenever you're stuck on a hard question, create a better question, and it has time frame. Should I marry someone? It's like, okay, hold on a sec. What I always tell, okay, let me stop for a second. I'm getting too excited. This is good coffee.
It's really good.
Look, I get calls from friends whenever they have a problem that they can't figure out. I really love the fact that I get those calls because that means they appreciate my opinion. And they're always looking for an answer. And I don't give them an answer. What I tell them is, ask a better question. And they're like, well, what does that mean? Time frame. Should I marry this person? I'm not sure. I want to know, but like the time has come. We got to marry. I'm like, okay, great. Hold on, my man. Let's break down question. I literally had this call a month ago. Christmas break. He's like, I have to either marry this woman and move here or not. And we're in that spot. Okay. I was like, well, I want you to come up with 30 questions, 30 to 50 questions. Just brainstorm. And you're going to fill in time frame, how it makes you feel, how it makes someone else feel. One, you need time frame because you got to contain time. It's forever. It's too big. Second is how it makes you feel is important because you're getting energy. The second one, how it affects others, is important because we are human beings that are living in a network of community. And if it's always about you, you're going to burn out. It's got to be in connection with other people.
And also that kind of gets us out of ourselves.
And our narcissism.
Whatever we do has an effect on at
other
least
people.
one other person in our life.
But the point is that if I do it for there's an energy that comes back to me too, and it's more sustainable. So I said, just brainstorm, like, what can I do for the next 6 months that makes me feel challenged and uncomfortable such that I can be in a position to raise a family in the future? What can I do in the next year so that I can, build the foundations financially for a family in the future so I can support my family? What can I do in the next year, 2 weeks, whatever it is, that makes me feel safe and comfortable so that I can recuperate my energy so that I can be more present for what's to come and, for others or something. Just 30 of them, dude.
I want to pause you right there because that's incredible and no doubt very helpful. But I'm trying to put myself in the shoes of the listener and going like, I can't even think of those questions. How can I even think of these questions? I'm just so stuck in thinking of a question. Right. You want me to come up with 30 supporting questions?
No, you have 30, you have a slot. Time frame makes you feel inspired. Just you could break it up. Do 30 different time frames: year, month, week, 6 months, whatever. You could have a few repeats.
Okay.
Inspired, challenged, comfortable, scared, growing, happy, fulfilled, joyful, doing the unexpected. Okay, just fill those slots. Then here, how suppose my family, my friends, community. Things that are important to me, like for in social justice, or like causes that are important to me, or like my block, my house, my friends, my wife, my best friends, coworkers. Okay. You look at those, and then you can create these questions.
See, that's beautiful right there. I want the listener, again, just to wrap their head around. You just gave us a framework, and this isn't anything that you just plucked out of thin air, even though you're literally writing in thin air. We all have that. And this is a great reminder for us that in order to move forward, I think the fear of making a choice or taking an action or the wrong action comes from us having to come up with the right next step or the right question. But all these things are surrounding us. We all have these people. We all can access these emotions. We all have felt them. So just by putting it out there and then kind of just immediately associating to it.
You have your 30 to 50 questions. You look at them and you're like, the one I want to answer right now is this one.
There we go. There we go.
Okay, so your first question is, should I get married? Then you do this exercise and you're like, ooh, this is the question I want. This is the one that I'm agency, that I'm inspired, that inspires me. This is my question I want to answer right now. What can I do for the next 6 months that challenges me emotionally such that I can be in a position to have a full gauge relationship for marriage? Oh, that's the one I love.
What a more robust question.
Yeah. Okay. Then you go, all right, and that's the question. Should I marry this person? No. Instead, you should do this. Oh, okay. Listen, we're not going to get married, but I'm going to go full on for the next 6 months with you. Or, I'm sorry, I'm not ready, and I'm going to go. Or you go another question. You're like, what can I do for the next year that I play full out such that I know I can such that I'm building a family? And you look at that, you're like, you know what? What I could do to play full out is marry that person.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Yeah.
So when you're stuck on a question, it's because you're not asking a quality question.
Yeah.
Break down the question, then the answer becomes obvious. And here's the great thing about questions is you can always ask another one.
Mm-hmm.
Like life is not, that's why you need a time frame, because, we talk about like getting married forever. That's like implicit and explicit in but like things change. Mm-hmm. We change. And they say if you get married, for instance, it's the practice of choosing yes every day. Right? And not taking that for granted. It's a practice every day. So, if you're going to make that example of a commitment, it's like you choose that and you're going to be conscientious. You can always ask different questions and have different answers. I mean, that's part of life.
What do you think is a question you hear directly from your friends, or maybe just kind of you have been observing in, let's just say, America or most people? What do you think is a question most people are asking that is doing them a disservice?
Okay. The big one is regardless of what you are on the political spectrum, is how could they have voted for that person? How could they be so crazy to vote for that person? And it's literally what I hear on both sides, right? How could they be so crazy? Yeah. All right. Well, how could they be so crazy? So then the answer you're going to fetch are all the reasons why they're so crazy. Is that a bridge builder?
No.
Does that bring us closer? Instead is okay, how do we reshape the question? How do we because what are the answers we want to fetch? That's why the question is the answer, because the answers you get are shaped by the question. So if you shape a different question, you'll get different answers. So if you ask the question, what is it that I'm misunderstanding about their journey that puts them in a position to support that candidate?
Mm-hmm.
Then you're looking at what you're misunderstanding. Or what is it that they've experienced that puts them in a position that makes them feel that's the right way forward? Okay, then let me see. So you're fetching things that is when you say why are they so crazy about it, you're already pushing them away. You're not inviting them in. You're not looking for the common. What are the values we share that where we would see the same things, and why are they seeing a difference than I am?
I have an idea. If you could, I'm thinking of some questions that I've asked of myself, and that I think a lot of people ask themselves.
Great.
One, why are they more successful than I am?
Okay.
How should I restate that question?
Mm-hmm. All right. So then the question is, what is it that you want to get from that answer? What's the answer you want to get?
So if I'm asking, why are they more successful than I am? I want more success.
You want more success. Great. What can I do in the next 3 months, 2 months?
So you go to the time first.
Quantify it first. Just say, because I think it's good to quantify. Like,
okay.
Or you could just, most of me is like, instead of making like, why are they more successful? What can I learn from them? What can I copy from them? What is it about them that inspires me to be more successful? What pattern do I see them do that I think puts them in a position for success that I can replicate?
What steps have they taken? What habits do they have?
Yeah.
What resources do we have in similarity?
But what resource? They might have resources you don't have. So you might be like, well, that guy comes from he's a trust fund. Of course he's got money. He could do it. That's not going to help you, But you could be like, I'm just saying that's the answer that like resources. Then again, it's like, but like you want to shape the question. It's like so that it gives you empowerment and agency. So like, what can I learn from them? What are they doing right that I could do right too that would help me?
Beautiful.
Right?
Beautiful. Yeah.
Boom. Because that question of why are other people more successful, that is sending the dog to get an answer.
Yeah.
And once you're more successful than that guy, guess what the dog's going to do? It's going to go find another guy who's more successful than you.
Yeah.
And that's a never-ending pit of despair.
It's never ending. And to your point earlier, like it gets us out of the comparison. And I think if we stay in comparison, we're never going to move forward.
But the answers that question fetches you are not going to empower you. They're going to disempower you.
Yeah.
They're not going to give you something to climb, to get out and like do something with. Instead, you want that stick, the answer to come back that's like, oh, I can use this stick to improve the situation I have. So I'm expressing more of myself, or living more of the life that I want to live, that I envision.
All right, I got another one. Why do they always cheat on me?
Oh, that's going to put you such in a hole, right? Because where's that there? Why do they always cheat on me? Long list of like, because this, that. Instead, what am I going to take into the next relationship so that I don't repeat the same scenario here? Why, what's the lesson? What's the lesson in their cheating for me? Oh, wait, hold on a sec. No, wait. Hold on. But hold on. It's more like, because that could go down. It's more like, where is the blind spot here for me? And how can I carry that into my next relationship so that I don't repeat the same blind spot? Right?
That's just a entire world shift.
Yeah, because as soon as you go, why do you always cheat on me? Guess what? You're just going to look for those answers. So you look for the other partners that are going to have the same dynamic. You're looking for it. A huge shift for me, and this comes from parents being a child of divorced parents. Throughout my life, I was always looking for how things would end. That was a profound question. It's like, how's this going to end? I don't care if it was a relationship, a work relationship, a friendship. It was always, how's this going to end? That was my question. Why? And I read this in The Unexpected Legacy of the Divorce, which is a great book, which basically said, kids who come from divorced families, they just know the show's going to end because they're born, and then the divorce happens. They go to the corners of the stage. Their parents take stage, center stage. They're the whole center of attention. The whole family structure is destroyed, and now as a kid, you're just looking at the world like, how's this going to end? It's going to go bad. It always goes bad. And I remember living in New York and a roommate, and I just was mentioned something like, oh no, it's going to go bad. It's like, why? Well, because it always does. He goes, no, it doesn't, Topaz. And I just read the book and I'm like, realized, oh my God, this guy, his parents didn't get divorced. He doesn't have that question. He's like, and I'm like, ooh, isn't that beautiful if you didn't even ask that question? Because I'm asking that question all the time, how's this going to end? So imagine every work relationship, how are they going to screw me? How's this going to end bad? They're going to screw me? How's this going to go bad? Relationship, same thing. So if you go, why do they always cheat on me? You're looking for the cheating. You're looking, instead it's like, okay, what am I going to learn from this? What is the blind spot in here? What did I accept that put in a position for cheating that I won't in the next relationship? Just shape it. That's why the question is the answer.
Yeah. This is so good. I'm going to keep going maybe one or two more. This is very practical.
Going. This is great.
Why don't they open up as much to me as I do them?
Why don't they open up as much to me as I do them? And you're asking this of yourself, right?
Mm-hmm. I'm putting myself in the shoes
that's
of,
not a bad question,
I'm in a
right?
relationship,
Because you're like looking, and so I think that I don't think that's necessarily. I don't think that question would fetch you negative answers per se, like disempowering answers. I do think you can improve it slightly by just saying, "How can I create more of a space such that they can open up even more to me? Maybe even similar to the amount that I'm opening to them."
Mm-hmm.
You know, how can what is, and like so that's an interesting. It's like, and maybe is in another introspective question, because that's a really nice introspective question, right? And I think that's worthwhile exploring. It's like, what? Because then the answer you might fetch is like, maybe they don't feel safe. Maybe they feel like a judgment from me. Maybe I'm asking at the wrong time. I'm not great. You know, who knows? And so I think those questions fetch some good answers. I think you could just improve it slightly, like by saying another version that you could ask yourself is like, what is it about me that wants them to open up on the same level as I do?
Please go back and say that again.
What is it in me that wants them to open up on the same depth and level that I do?
God,
right?
That's good.
And that could give you different answers. One is because I want to feel that sense of connection. Or maybe it's because maybe secretly I don't trust them unless they do open up. So maybe I have an issue with trust and I'm not actually letting them be who they are. Maybe because I'm not recognizing that their love language is not verbal, but actually it's action. And I'm not noticing the fact that they're cleaning up all the time and giving me massages with physical love, right?
Yeah.
So you can ask that. So when you see a question, it's like, that's why for me, it's like, how constructive is the question? I don't mean how well constructive it is. I'm saying how constructive in the sense that the answers it fetches are going to be constructive to your life, that you can actually do things with, right?
Man, that was really, really good. That hit. I wonder how many other people are kind of like nodding their head right now listening to that.
If they made it this far, because probably the beginning.
But another point I've heard you talk about is this anchor of trust. And I think especially when we're talking about, well, with ourselves, but especially in intimate relationships or just meaningful, deep relationships, your friend, your coworker, your family member, whatever. And I'm kind of maybe paraphrasing your quote here, but you talk about how the greater the anchor of trust you have in your relationship, the greater the depths you can explore.
Yeah.
So then so for argument's sake, let's go, okay, maybe I've been nailing the questions, but for whatever reason, that anchor of trust is not there.
Yeah.
How can I develop an anchor of trust so that I can go explore deeper?
That's a great question.
Well, it's a great quote. It's you, man.
No, but it's a great question. How do you develop more trust? I mean, yeah.
I was going to say, because that's also, I'll say, it's also kind of making the assumption that if we're not getting the answers that we want to the questions we're asking of ourselves or of other people, and let's also say that we are making the assumption that we've done a better job of asking those questions. I kind of heard you say it in that question earlier, there's not enough trust or any trust.
Right. So the first thing is you said, if we're not getting the answers that we want to the questions we're asking, right? Like but does that mean you're not getting an answer or you're not getting the answer you want? Because the answer you want means you have an agenda.
I was going to say, is there a difference?
Yeah, there's a huge difference. If you're not getting an answer, that means that you're not getting a response. Okay, then maybe you're not playing tennis together. Maybe you're not in conversation. And that's something to explore. If you're not getting the answer you want, which happens a lot in relationships, right? You have one person in a relationship who wants to go deeper, but they're not, and they're not giving you the answers you want. Well, that's because you have an agenda. And an agenda versus an intention. Agenda is where you end up. You want to end up at a certain answer. An intention is, hey, I just want to ask a question and get any answer. I want to explore this. I want to ask you. I want to have a conversation. An agenda is like, I want this specific result. I want this specific answer. Now, when you come to when you create a space for conversation and you have an agenda and the other person feels it, they're not connecting you with their heart, They're protecting themselves with the head.
No, how many of us have shut down when we get that feeling?
Oh, you get
we know that.
You know that. You feel like, whoa, where are they coming from? What do they want? They want to get to here. Why? They want me to apologize. Wait, why? Now your head comes out, which is built to protect you, versus your heart is built to connect you. So that does not build a space that feels safe. And part of safety is there's trust, because you're not articulating your intention where we begin. You're telling me where you want to end up. And I don't necessarily know if I want to end up there. I don't trust if I want to get there. So hold on a sec.
Yeah.
So I gave you the formula. Quality life experience means quality relationships. Well, quality relationships, quality conversations. All right, what's that? Space, well-constructed questions. Now when you talk about this trust, it's about the space. Mm-hmm. How do I create a space where I feel safe such that I can be uncomfortable? Because let's not confuse safety and comfort. They're not the same thing. You can be safe and you can be uncomfortable. It's okay. Oftentimes people feel uncomfortable, like, oh, I'm not safe. I'm like, maybe, but maybe not. Let's look at that. So what makes it safe? You got to trust that we're in the same space in terms of where we're going, what our maybe underlying values are. I trust that you have my benefit in mind as I have yours. Like, I'm not here to stab you in the back. You're not here to stab me in the back, regardless of whether it's your lover, your business partner, your friend. It's like there's no malevolence here. Okay. Now, part of that is when we come to conversation, is there a clear intention? Because we're starting from the same spot. If I'm already at the end of the journey and I want you to get here, then you're like, wait. How'd you get here? Wait. You're like, wait, how? Now you're not stepping forward. You're like, wait, what are we talking about here? You want to have this conversation because you want me to apologize to you.
Yeah.
Why am I apologizing? Like, where's this coming from? Or you want me to say right? Or you want me to agree to your decision, but I'm not there yet. Hold on. If you instead, you say, hey, I'm coming in with the intention and articulate, which is, hey, I want to have a conversation about what we should do with finances. I think I have a solution, but I don't know. And I know that we need to have a conversation about it. So now we're like, oh, we're in the starting.
That's a much more neutral playing.
We're starting the same space.
Yeah.
Great. And also, you want to create the space. Yeah. And the space is about intention, but it's also about boundaries. Boundaries, another word for boundaries, are rules. Why? Because certain things happen in certain places. And you outline that with the boundaries, with the rules. What I mean by that is, Chase, you don't sleep in the kitchen and you don't cook in the bedroom. Mm. You know, when you go to the bedroom, there's like the space is built for certain things. The kitchen is built for certain things. Mm. You know what is permissible in the kitchen, like permissible, what is expected of you, what you could do, right? Mm. What you're expecting of the space and what the space expects of you. You're in the kitchen, bedroom, different. How often do we express that in the home of our relationships, whether it's your lover, your partner, your coworker, right? Your friend. So you say, hey, this is what's expected. I can give a very simple example of that, like in the workspace you want.
Yeah, great.
Like just about the space. Like sometimes you have a meeting at work and the person running the meeting is talking, and how many times you go to a meeting where everyone's just brainstorming and no decisions are made, and then you leave going, what the fuck was that about? That was
another
like
meeting that could have been an email.
It could have been like, what was that for? It's like, well, because we didn't set the expectations. And if the leader says, listen, guys, this meeting, or someone in the team goes, hey, what kind of meeting is this? Let's be clear. All right, we're all in the kitchen, which means we're brainstorming. We're cooking up whatever it is. You're like, this is a brainstorming meeting, which means we're going to brainstorm. You could throw out bad ideas because bad ideas could lead to a mediocre idea, could lead to a great idea. Yes, and energy. Okay, that's what we're doing. And at the end of this meeting, none of us are expecting a answer, a result, because we're brainstorming. Mm-hmm. So then no one's pissed. They're not wasting their, like, I get what this meeting is about because it was articulated the intention.
Yeah.
Versus another meeting you have with like, hey, this is I'm talking about what we do in our company, for instance. My team asks you, what kind of meeting is this? Okay, this is a system analysis meeting, which is I'm getting info, collecting data, and analyzing something. So in this meeting, I'm just going to ask questions. I don't want direct answers. How much? What happened? What are your thoughts? Cool. I'm not asking for your opinion. I'm not asking for ideas. You know that, so you're not pissed why every time I meet with Topaz, he's not asking me for my opinion. He doesn't want my creativity. No. In this meeting, I don't. And you know that. So you're not like upset why I'm not asking for a brainstorming idea because it's not that kind of meeting. So what kind of conversation are we having? That's part of the space. When you're on a road trip A road trip is great. Why? Because we're kind of in a closed space, not a lot of other distractions. You have a nice conversation. At some point, you're done listening to a podcast or audio, and like you fall into a convo. You're on a 5-hour drive. And you have, why? Because you're in a certain space.
You made the container for it.
You built a container for it. I mean, I remember living in New York, and sometimes like, it's crazy and noise. And one of the only places I could find solace and quietness was in church. And I'm not a Catholic. I'm not a Christian. I don't go to church, but I could go there and find solace and quietness. Why? Because in church, it's a quiet place. People don't come running and yelling in it. I'm talking about outside of service. It's open all the time. And you go down on Mott Street, there's a beautiful church, gorgeous, quiet, and you can walk in any time. Just sit down and just like find a moment of quiet and peace and like meditate in the space. Why? Because that's what's expected of that space. You're not expected to walk in and yell and flash photography and like, no, this is the church, right? Like there's certain spaces that we do certain things. So in a relationship, why is a fireplace great? Why is it great to have like a chair that looks at the sunset and you kind of sit there 2-3 times a week if you can, or every night? You have pizza night every Sunday. You and your wife know, hey, Sunday afternoon, we've done all the stuff. You've prepared. You have eaten your calories. You know this. Like, we're going to watch a movie. And what's expected? We're going to chill. And it's cool for you not to talk, her to talk. You guys do, like, it's a space you've created, a container you created. Do we can create those containers? You're going to talk to your family member at some point, maybe, off of your thing from last year. One very important thing, if you ever do speak to them, is that you build a container in which to have the conversation in. So you find the space. We're not going to look at the phones. Right? And you got to clearly articulate the intention. Not that you want a certain result from that person, but the intention, hey, I want to create this moment for us to have a convo, just to explore. I don't know where we'll get to, but to know that like this is what happened to me. I just want to like create the space because for me, it's important that we have this relationship, or from maybe not our relationship, but for me, I need closing to that. I just want to create the space for us to have this moment. And then you can ask questions within that, but it's important that we create the space for things.
Yeah.
Because that creates also a level of trust because they're safe. Safe to be uncomfortable.
Safe to be uncomfortable. Safe to be uncomfortable. Yeah. That's vital. That's
it's
vital.
A long riff. I'm sorry if I...
No, this is so good. Thank you. What comes up for me as well in all this is curiosity.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of us don't have as much curiosity as we once did.
Yeah.
I think it's something that kind of goes by the wayside as we age or mature or just leave certain, again, to your point, containers or homes and jobs, and we grow up, right?
Yeah.
And I think curiosity gets squandered.
Sure.
So what role does curiosity play in
Huge.
developing these good questions? And how do we get back to it if we're not there?
So in the framework of creating a safe space where you articulate your intention, oftentimes you're like, fuck the intention. I'm pissed. I want an answer. You're pissed. You want to think. You have an agenda. So you got to pause. You got to tap into your curiosity so that you can find what your intention is. You're like, I really want this person. I don't know why they did this. We're family. I'm not talking about, I have this to myself too, right? I mean, this happened to me last year.
I think a lot of people can relate. A family member says something, does something, really rattles your cage. Yeah.
And they're like, okay, I want them to see the light. I want them to understand I want them to apologize. Whatever. It's like, okay, that's not really going to get us there. Let me tap into my curiosity. Why am I so hurt? Why do they do that behavior when we're kind of family, when we're coworkers, when I thought we, had been on the same journey? Like, let me tap into my curiosity about my own pain or my own curiosity about them and shape the intention from that space. The curiosity is the kind of the fuel that can help you get to finding what your intention is from a curious place versus a place of like having an agenda, right? So, having like a political agenda or whatever, any kind of agenda that you want a certain result.
So if someone, again, I'm just trying to quantify this for the listener, if they're struggling with getting to an intention and getting away from an agenda, like I don't have an intention, what is the right, air quote here, right intention for this? You're saying lean into curiosity to develop that intention.
Yes.
Okay.
To find that. Because then there's a place, when you're curious, you don't know the answer. Right?
That's yes.
When you're curious,
Yes.
if you know the answer, you're not curious. You're like, so find the curiosity, because then you're in a place of openness, because you're like, I don't know the answer. And it's from there that you articulate your intention. Because when I come to you and say, hey, Chase, I don't know the answer. I'm curious. We have this things, misunderstanding or hurt, but I'm curious. How did this come? Then we're starting from the same point. Versus, hey, man, I want this result from you. You're like, well, I didn't get there yet. I'm not there. We're in different spots. So in order for us to we have to begin from the same point.
Mm-hmm.
So to find the intention in which we can begin together is curiosity. And the other thing to mention about curiosity, which is such a big word and people are using, at least in my field, is that people are saying, well, some are curious, some are more than others. I think we're all curious, but we may be curious about different things. Some people are curious, like, in podcasts where maybe someone's curious about tactical solutions for how to improve your life. Someone else is interested in your human, your life experience. Some people are interested in like how to solve problems. Like we're all curious about different things.
Mm-hmm.
And just so feed your own curiosity, and your curiosity doesn't have to be someone else's curiosity. That's where I think we're given like one term for everything.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, wait, hold on. Like, what are you curious about? And like own the thing you're curious about. Right? There's many curiosities, not just one. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah. Go back to when you were a child. Maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I was curious about a lot of things. The world is just one big curious place. And of course, as we age and we grow up, we learn and we know, we have certain truths. So the curiosity goes away a little bit, but that doesn't mean like it as a whole should go away.
Right.
But I think a lot of us are detached from curiosity in general in our day-to-day life.
You're a kid, you grow up and you're like, oh, world's amazing. And then over time, you're like, I'm really curious about football, science, and this. And I couldn't care less about math and philosophy.
Mm-hmm.
And water polo, don't care, but I love football. Okay. Then you get older and you're like, maybe your curiosities maybe you find the answers to some of your curiosities and new ones perk up.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Maybe you want to like discover, I need a new curiosity. I need a new hobby. I need a new thing. Where is that thing? You got to fuel that fire. Put the ember on it. Don't let the fire go out.
How would you recommend someone to kind of kickstart that flame again? If they're hearing this and going, you know what? I don't know what I'm curious about. I don't remember the last time I was curious about anything, or this was my last curiosity that turned into just a tangible thing. How do we start?
Yeah. So in the scope of, in my opinion, what comes up for me, I hear that question in two contexts. One is like your personal hobbies or things that you might be interested in. And the other one is curiosity of someone else. So the one in terms of your own personal life, I would say, if you really have no idea, like you have no little inkling, there's not even a thread to pull, then I would go to the bookstore and I would walk down a random thing and see what pops out and open a random page.
So again, going back to put yourself in the right container.
Find something that puts you in exposure to many different things and see what life presents you, and just try to find that thread there. You're like interest, and pull the thread and see where it leads you. In terms of relationship, because you're like, I've been with this person 25 years. When the book came out, people were like, Topaz, I know everything about my husband. I've been with him for 25 years. I know how he's going to answer. I'm like, wait, hold on. You haven't changed in 25 years? You haven't changed in 25. You met when you were this, and now you have your parents your parents of kids who are in high school. You haven't changed? And you're telling me this response? Like, no.
Yeah, I disagree.
Right? You've lost it. So how do you create curiosity is ask different questions. Ask different questions. Like, I really love it when I ask questions, and hopefully it'll happen to you this weekend with May, is that there'll be a question, and hopefully a few, where you'll have to pause. Because you haven't explored that, like, you haven't explored that question before. And you're like, whoa, okay, let me find, again, the dog's going to find the faithful answer to that question. You're like, whoa, let me find the answer. But I've never explored that one. So like, great. And now you're in a space because you don't know the answer. You're curious. And I'm seeing a new side of you because I've never seen this side of you. Never had that curiosity. So a way to spark the curiosity in the relationship is acknowledge the fact that we have changed. It's not just, in order to make ourselves safe, we try to make ourselves comfortable, which means I try to know you so that you don't fall outside the box.
So true.
And we have to
So
fight
true.
against that. And the way to help that is by posing a question, because your mind's going to fetch that answer that like forces you to like, oh, wait. Oh, now I'm a little uncomfortable.
Mm-hmm.
I'm safe. I'm in this space, but I'm a little uncomfortable. Great. I'm going to learn something.
I'm really curious to see how this experience is going to go down this weekend, because May and I both love getting uncomfortable, and we both really enjoy being proven wrong when we have an expectation and we're like, damn, got me. So I'm really excited for this experience. Excuse me. I'm going to ask one more thing around curiosity.
Yeah.
Actually, this quote that I pulled from, are you familiar with Rick Rubin?
Sure.
He had a book that came out, I guess,
Yeah,
like
The
2 years
Creative
ago.
Act.
The Creative Act.
Yeah.
Incredible book. Highly recommend. Actually, I love the Audible. It kind of reads as this meditation with like the gong.
Well, he's got a great voice.
Oh, it's incredible. It's incredible. I would love to sit down with him one day. But this quote stood out to me, linking to curiosity. I want to get your take on it. Look for what you notice, but no one else sees.
Yeah. The way I interpret that is what's obvious to you may not be obvious to everyone else.
Mm.
And that's like it's kind of the flip of that is like, that's saying, okay, what's obvious to you may not be obvious to everyone else. And that's where your value lies. That's a big learning, because it may be obvious to you. And when it's obvious to you, you're like, this is obvious. I'm not going to talk. If it's obvious to me, you assume, well, it's obvious to everyone else because it's obvious.
Sure. Yeah.
And then when you realize actually it's not obvious to everyone else, that's where your value lies, because it's obvious to you. And therefore you're like, oh, let me show that to the rest. What's obvious to me that's not to everyone else, let me present that to them. Right? So that it becomes obvious to them. And that's where your value is to them. Your community, you are sharing your life experiences and your conversations with people. And you are seeing certain things that you're drawing out in our conversation, drawing out because you're like, wait, this is great. This is valuable. Yeah. It's obvious it's valuable to you. And you're like, let me draw that out so that I make what's obvious to me obvious to them. And there's value there. Mm-hmm. He's saying basically the same thing, like look for the thing that no one else does. I'm saying don't deny the fact that what's obvious to you may not be to someone else. And that's where your value is. Mm-hmm. Offer that. I remember, does it make sense?
Yeah.
Go ahead. I'm like, I mean, look, I'm 48. I'm about to be 49. It's taken me a long time. And my 20s and 30s, there are many things that are obvious to me. Not obvious, but I thought were obvious and I didn't talk about them. And here I am talking about things that are obvious to me, but people are going, oh, there's value there. And that's where I'm learning this last year. Like, it's obvious to me, maybe not be obvious to everyone, that's where my value lies. So offer that. I remember seeing, it was a Telluride. I was a filmmaker for many years, and I was at Telluride, and there was Steve McQueen, who's this great director. He had his movie out, Blitz, but he was talking about Hunger or Shame, one of those two movies. Shame.
That's the Michael Fassbender movie?
Yeah. The second one. He had Hunger first, then Shame.
Shame, yeah.
And someone asked him, like, why do you make this movie? First, it was about hunger and the political story of Margaret Thatcher time and the fasting. The guy dies. And then now about shame, sexual addiction. Like, why'd you do that? And he goes, well, to me, it was obvious. And I remember going, what does he mean obvious?
What
and I
was
like,
statement,
wait, it's obvious to him. So I was like, oh, wait. So he sees the world through certain lens that's obvious to him. And it's not obvious to us. And yet he made this beautiful film that like reveals something to us. And that was an anchor point in me. And now this year I realized, oh, wait, that's what he meant.
I want to piggyback off of that. I think it's an incredible nugget right there that what's curious, or excuse me, I can't talk. Let me go back. So when we're looking for what you notice but no one else sees, you're saying that is our value. But let's go back to what we were talking about in the beginning and go, let's ask the question.
The difference there is that he's like giving you, go looking for what other people don't notice, what you see and other people don't notice. And what I'm saying is that sometimes it's not that far away.
Right.
It's like right there. Like this is an act of like, let me go discover what it is. I got to go find the thing that no one else sees, but I see it. It was like, what I'm saying is sometimes it's not so far away. It's actually right in front of you. It's what's obvious to you, but not to everyone else. It's a flip.
There we go. Yeah. So then I want to ask the question, why isn't this obvious to everyone else?
When you say this, what do you mean?
So whatever the thing is, we're asking earlier, why do they keep cheating on me, kind of thing. So if we want to take the same starting point of what is obvious to me is my value, could we also then ask the question, why doesn't everyone else see this? Why isn't this obvious for them?
That's like I think that's an impossible question to answer, right? Because there's so many. Who's them, and how, and like there could be so many.
Too many other variables.
Too many variables.
Okay.
Like why is it not obvious to that would be a huge. Why is it obvious to you? Like why is it obvious to me about this human connection? And like why did it work? Well, one thing I spent the last 11 years witnessing these conversations, trial and error of watching people talk. That's what most of me is like. Okay. But then what led me to a place that like even put me in a position to want to watch them and pose these questions? Well, because I was always curious and question, where did that come from? Maybe my divorce, looking for why my parents didn't get along. So that put me in a position to like explore something and like, I don't know. Then you have to break down the flip side of like, why is it obvious to everyone else? It's like, well, God knows, everyone's got their own.
So if you got a few days, maybe go down that route.
Or like some psychedelics.
You
want to crack that code? You take the psychedelic, you'll find the answer.
Hey man, I'm gonna get a vote for that one every time. Personally speaking, actually speaking of, quick sidebar.
Yeah.
When we were, I think this was over Christmas. Yeah, we went to LAX and we were checking in, had to check a bag, and I shit you not, guess who's in front of me at the ticket line? Christopher Nolan.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
I've been in LA for 6 years now, almost.
That's why he's very
7.
private. He's a very private guy.
That was I've never been more starstruck in my entire life, just because I love every single one of his movies. And
I hope you didn't talk to him.
No, I didn't.
You left him alone?
It took every fiber of my being, Topaz, to not just. I want at least shake his hand. I was like, Mr. Nolan, love your movies. Thank you. Just anything. But I was like, don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Don't be that guy. Also, I was like, damn, Christopher Nolan's flying commercials still, all right?
Yeah, you're right. Impressive.
He had 2 assistants with him. But I was like, holy shit. And I told May, I was like, look. It's Mr. Interstellar, all the shit. But there's just no question there, but just a comment. Speaking of all the Christopher Nolan things. All right, kind of wrapping up here. As this is coming out, we're around Valentine's Day, February 2025. Yeah. And I think a lot of people are thinking maybe some good questions. They're feeling some kind of way, or at least this is the time of year where a lot of us might just have other people, our relationships on our mind. What can we do different this Valentine's Day to really surprise ourselves and to surprise our partner?
No, the key word there is different. Key word is you want the pause. You want to. There was research done about like what keeps couples together, and what they found is when they do new activities together. And they could be activities, it could just have new conversations. So whatever you do, do something different. Create that pause, and the pause is the searching for the connecting two different ideas or thoughts, or if you've never, do something different. Go to a different place, take a different route, ask a different question, do it at a different time. Create something where you're both starting from the same place, exploring something new together.
Ooh,
do that.
Love it. Can I just do that? Everyone do that. What is one thing you think most people continue to do on Valentine's Day that they think is helping their intimate relationships, but it is actually not moving the needle as much as they think?
Well, I mean, it's like a cliche. Like, I would think unfortunately, it's the same thing of everything. It's buying the chocolates, and it's like the cliche thing that we're sold. And so we're asking ourselves the questions that we're sold by the consumer's, machine, so that we buy their products.
Kind of goes back to the beginning, whose question is this?
Whose question is this? So what does Valentine's mean to you? Like, what if you were like, look, I'm going to take Valentine's as, fuck it, I'm going to see it through the lens of, I'm a soul living in this body, having this adventure. And I'm going to take this day as a moment of intermission from the rest of life to connect with this other soul and just share trail notes of our lives. Like, or we're together. I know we're together forever. We're having a family, and I'm going to take this moment of Valentine's as souls, not as like parents, but two souls who are having these human experiences. to market today so that next year we can do something else that markets it too. And we're going to make like the benchmarks or like the trail notes, not trail, but like leave a trail behind in our lives so that we can always like hark back to these moments and share these special moments that encapsulates our love or encapsulates our soul journey. Like, and by the way, those are all answers to a different question. It's like, what can I make Valentine really mean to me? What is really important to me in my relationship with people? And how can I use this moment to market it, to demarcate it, right? Like,
thank you for those answers. And I hope people have wrapped their head around in this podcast what it means to be curious, what it means to ask a question, and whose question am I asking? And the biggest thing for me that stood out was the whole aspect of intention versus agenda. And I think that's where a lot of us get stuck in asking any question, but also getting frustrated with, I feel like I'm just asking the same question over and over and over, or you're just asking a bajillion questions, you're not getting any answers. Take a step back. What is the intention or what is the agenda? Is this the appropriate container for the agenda, or is it the container for the intention?
Right. Great.
So helpful. Topaz, I want to ask my last question to bring it back home to the theme of Ever Forward. Excuse me. And I want to ask you the question now, but you've been asked this before. Ever Forward. What does it mean to you now, here, 2025? Those two words.
What does it mean? Yeah, because last year I gave an answer, which I remember. Now this year, I've had 3 friends die this year. There's been a lot of death this past year. And so from the current standpoint that I'm experiencing of life, I see Ever Forward as like I'm looking at a river and it doesn't stop flowing. Like it doesn't stop flowing. And some, just a river that just like, and so it's ever forward, it's ever streaming, it's ever flowing. It doesn't stop. And sometimes, you're with a group of people, sometimes people get on, sometimes people get off. You don't see them again. But that stream is always, the river's always flowing. So it's always going forward. It's always going, no matter what, even if you're here or not, even if they're there or not, it's always going. So what are we doing while we're together?
Mm-hmm. I really like that interpretation. I haven't heard a lot like that of taking yourself out of it. Like, this is how I keep moving forward. This is how, no matter what, we figure it out. But, it's this collective, like the universe. We all are just moving forward, whether we like it or not.
I mean, I started this year with a death and I ended this year with a death. And at the funeral, I was in Sweden. I flew to Sweden for 3 days because one of my best friend's mother's, who was also close to me, obviously. And I had this experience where I just was like, we're on a spaceship called Earth, and I know but it really felt like a spaceship just flying through space. And it's like you're in a spaceship, and sometimes people get on, and sometimes people get off. A baby's born, you meet somebody, they get on. And then one day they die or they disappear, and they're off. And that's it. The spaceship doesn't stop moving. The stream, the river doesn't stop flowing. Mm-hmm. So what are we doing when we're together on the spaceship? What spaces are we creating? What experiences are we sharing? What convos are we sharing? What moments are we dropping into?
Sounds like the cliff notes for the next Christopher Nolan movie.
Yes, Interstellar. Totally.
Interstellar 2. God, I wish we could get Interstellar 2. But Topaz, man, it's always good to see you.
Yeah.
And I also want to give you a shout out. You introduced me to another great guy here in LA. Shout out Aaron Scott Lazar. Another powerful conversation.
Did you get my text when I heard that message?
Yeah.
My voice, like
you sent me a message about the interview. Yeah.
Whoever watched that podcast, that's one of the top-notch podcasts I've heard that he did, but also in general, I've been listening. Check out that Aaron Lazar podcast was I don't know what number that is.
I'll link it down in the show
Yeah,
notes.
link it. That thing was
But
like,
that one was. I cannot think of a more perfect, if that's a word that comes to mind. Just the nature of, I shared, the backstory ever before it comes to my dad, passed away from ALS.
yeah,
Aaron is currently battling.
yeah.
He'll say he's winning. He is. He's fighting and defeating ALS. And so it's just this incredible full circle moment. Yeah.
No, but that convo was so deep and profound and wonderful. Both of you guys is just,
and challenging.
He's coming Sunday with both his sons.
No way.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing.
He's going to do the end with both his sons.
Man. He's been a great new homie. This is a reminder. I want to holler at him again and check in. But yeah, thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Well, Topaz, where can my audience go to connect with you and learn more about what you got going on?
theskindeep.com, and all our socials are The Skin Deep. So that's where we're at.
And we were talking about it earlier, but I'm going to be a part of, my wife and I are going to be a part of.
Yeah, you're going to have a video out on our YouTube channel and TikTok and all that soon.
Do you know anything about that yet? Or
when it's released?
Yeah. I mean,
I have
it's
no
got to
idea.
go with a lot of production, but.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know when it's coming out, but I'm sure you'll let everyone know.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I'm so stoked and honored to be a part of this project. It's a beautiful experience. And I'm going to get my tissues ready. I'm sure we're going to have some feelings pouring out, but also I'm going to have a 8.5-month pregnant wife.
It's going to be awesome.
Super unique. We love this stuff.
Yeah.
Thanks, man. Appreciate you.
Thank you, man.